Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of December 28th through January 3rd, 2021. All right, so going into the new Gregorian year here this week, astrologically speaking, we do have a full moon on Tuesday, which is really the halfway point of this solar eclipse cycle that we started 2 weeks ago. And so coming into the week, really good to do a status check. How has these energies from the past 2 weeks been going? And how can we maybe make some shifts and changes to further develop some of that energy? Being in Gemini, it's good to do a status check with our practical side of life, with all this Sagittarius energy of expanding our perspective at the moment and all of this healing energy from the eclipse. Now, how can we apply it practically with Gemini to really think about things in a tangible sense in our practical lives and maybe getting some of that mental energy to help ground some of these higher perspectives? All right, so right off the bat, with that full moon, Venus is also going into healing Ophiuchus, so that could be good for some healing energy in our relationships and just in terms of what we're enjoying this week. Venus will be squaring up to Neptune on Wednesday, maybe some deep water energy with relationships. Really good to see how we can have a bit of compassion, understanding, healthy receptivity, and just be quite grounded there with our values, enjoyments, and relationships. And then on Friday, very minor going into the new Gregorian year, we have Mercury sextiling Neptune. So this could be good for maybe a watery mind, maybe noticing a little bit of flow available with the day, and maybe some communications that could be, again, a bit flowing and connecting in a more spiritual or deeper kind of way. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. All right, so we're going to look at the sky here for this week. And again, we are using the visible sky called true sidereal astrology. You will notice a lot of the signs are different from mainstream astrology. For example, I did just say that the full moon is in Gemini, but if you are used to mainstream astrology, you would have heard it be in Cancer. But so yeah, these signs are different, and do check the link down below for more information on using the visible sky called true sidereal astrology. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down one day of the week here. All in all, astrologically, not too busy, astrologically speaking, like it has been these previous couple weeks, but certainly some important energy to talk about. Perhaps the most important in terms of the lunar cycle is approaching this full moon, which will be in the Tuesday and Wednesday time period, marking the halfway point of this lunar month that started 2 weeks ago in healing Ophiuchus. So this has been a great month for seeing the deeper side of life, the deeper side of ourselves, maybe doing some shadow work, maybe doing some healing physically or spiritually. And so it's still really good to do that, especially with Venus starting to enter into Ophiuchus here this week, which can really symbolize this enjoyment of that kind of energy and also the energy coming through in our relationships particularly. But of course, with the Sun and Mercury in Sagittarius, the monthly context now is on expanding our perception. It's really good to be aware of our belief systems, our outlooks on life at this time, maybe discuss them or share them with others with Mercury, and really expand our horizons in terms of what is our perceptions. How can we view life in a way that maybe is open-minded, maybe is a bit more philosophical, a bit more abstract, to help us gain new experiences and access this spirit for life, this fire for life that Sagittarius helps us develop during this time of the year. So with the full moon being in Gemini, this is all about grounding that higher stuff, like from Ophiuchus and also from Sagittarius. So both the healing energy and that abstract energy. Because Gemini is very practical, it's the twins. It's all about how can we exchange ideas with others. Could be great for communication these first couple days of the week. But fundamentally doing the status check. How is our communication life? How is our practical life? How is our left side of the brain in the context of what's been so right side of the brain activated? And how can we fundamentally be willing to learn, right? Because it's really through getting into the practical life, being willing to communicate and share with others, and being willing to learn that it helps ground out all of that. So really good for this. How is this side of ourselves going? It could also be a bit of social energy. How's our social life going in our connection with our peers or neighbors or even friends, siblings? and these kinds of things that involve seeing eye to eye with others, sharing and exchanging, being open to learning, and being practical, I think, is a great way of doing a status check with the full moon. I will, of course, make a separate video on that specifically, so do stay tuned for that one. All right, so that's really the strongest energy here this early part of the week. Now, as we do get into this Wednesday time period, that Venus in Ophiuchus will be squaring up to Neptune. So Neptune's a very deep, watery energy, and so it can create a bit of nebulousness when it comes to our lives, and sometimes with Venus relationships. So if there is any tendency that we're observing about ourselves that may want to escape or hide away or wear some rose-colored glasses or put people on pedestals, which would be one extreme, or to avoid or to maybe get more reclusive or something like this in terms of relationships, it is good to be mindful of these natural tendencies to go to extremes with squares. And in this case with Neptune, to either escape or to be more kind of, inward, let's say. So how can we find the healthy balance of this? This will be, I think, the main challenge of the week. It's the only square that we have. So around Wednesday, I think it's great to practice healthy receptivity in life and in our relationships, compassion, understanding, presence. When it does come to our relationships, how can we surrender what's outside of our control if there is uncertainty or nebulousness about them, and live a little bit more presently in that sense. And oftentimes this can deal with the enjoyments of life as well. So if there are some things that we're wanting to escape with regarding maybe food or comforts or enjoyments or luxuries, these kinds of earthy material things that Venus can represent, also good to find some balance with that and find some healthy ways to find peace and a little bit more receptivity in our day-to-day lives. And in this way, it becomes very constructive. It can actually be a very creative time, a very intuitive time, a very spiritually meaningful time, especially in those relationships when we do, again, live presently, come from that place of unconditionality and acceptance of what is, and see how everything ends up ebbing and flowing when it comes to both the resources and the relationship energies of life. All right, so that's going to be the main concentration of energy here around the Tuesday, Wednesday time period. Once we do get to Thursday, the 31st, at the end of this Gregorian year, the moon will be in Cancer. And so both the 31st and the 1st will have this water energy of Cancer. So although, again, it's good to expand our horizons, get into some adventurousness with Sagittarius, in this case, we may just be feeling a little bit more collectively like creating a protective environment for ourselves. Some of us might want to spend time at home, maybe in a more private life. If it is more social, it might be a little bit more about the emotional connections and caring for and protecting for others that are important to us emotionally, but really good to get into the feeling-based elements of life. I still think the air elements of Gemini will be strong, of course, because of the full moon. So again, still very heightened with the communication and sharing and exchanging. But definitely a good time, the 31st and 1st, for more of the emotional connection. How can we essentially create a protective environment for ourselves and others so that we can connect to what really matters to us on a intrinsic or emotional level? And then once we do get to the 1st, Mercury will be sextiling up to Neptune. And so it's not major with these sextiles, but it is an opening for a little bit of easier energy with that watery Neptune stuff, especially because we will be easing up off of that square from Wednesday. So here we'll probably just have a good, at least available, receptive mind, maybe receptive communication. Again, this can also be very creative, very imaginative. We might get some insights coming from the unconscious or the spiritual realms. And then in the more interpersonal side of things, just noticing a little bit more willing to go with the flow, a little bit more open to maybe different types of communication, and just being a little bit more kind of present when it comes to the day-to-day routines and seeing how everything can ebb and flow. But again, the sextiles are just an available energy. It's not a given, but do know that it is certainly available there coming into the new Gregorian year. All right, and then the week does end with the moon going into Leo here. So Saturday and Sunday, I think great time for maybe having some fun, some self-expression, some playful energy. we do get a bit of this fire. And this is where we start to get into the disseminating phase of the lunar cycle, where the sun and moon are in a trine. They're both in fire signs. And so we do notice a little bit more of that supportive energy. And I think what's really good to do this weekend is to implement any insights from earlier in this week. So from that full moon around Tuesday, if there were any shifts of perspectives that you have, any new insights that did come in, it could be nice to implement those. And in this context, how can we have some fun, some playful energy, lighthearted energy, doing what we love, what we're passionate about, and also expand our horizons, right? With all this energy in Sagittarius, I think it's still a great month for seeing the bigger picture, getting into some of that adventurousness, and maybe examining and sharing our higher perspectives on life. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week and a happy new year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time for the next weekly forecast. Take care.